Welcome, data people. We are Zuma. My name is Matt, and this is the Data for Good podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Zuma. Zuma is a dedicated recruitment company focusing on data positions across Berlin. The Data for Good podcast is for the world of data science, analytics, and engineering, giving you the platform to hear the thoughts and opinions of data leaders from Berlin and beyond. Today, we are joined by Julia Flament-Wallin, engineering manager at TomTom. Julia, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, I'm good. At the top of Amsterdam. I'm doing good.
Yeah, beautiful background, beautiful background. And yeah, we appreciate you joining us and sharing some of your wisdom. For those who aren't aware, can you give us a quick introduction?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a software engineering manager, engineering leader at TomTom now. I have like 10 plus years of experience in the data space, kind of in the intersection between like data engineering, data science, and software engineering. Currently reading data intensive applications, and I think that book kind of sums up where I am in the landscape. So yeah, a software engineer, but with like a foot in AI or something like that.
Yeah, a nice broad experience that you've got, and we're hopefully going to tap into some of that in some quite juicy topics that we're going to discuss today. So yeah, we're going to dig into AI and why there's a bit of caution, especially within the online digital workforce. So let's start super simple. What's your definition of AI, and why is it creating a little bit of worry amongst the digital workers?
Yeah, super simple. What's AI? Yeah, my definition of AI. I think I don't know. There is no good definition. I think I've kind of given up on trying to define it. It's tossed around a lot, but broadly, I think it's a collection of technologies at this point. So inside AI, you have machine learning and deep learning, obviously, but you also have stuff that I would consider AI, but that isn't necessarily machine learning or deep learning. That might be, knowledge graphs, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that would be maybe just like a broad definition of AI. And then diving into why, digital and data and knowledge workers and developers and everyone are kind of like on edge. I think, I don't know. I think it's pretty like, there might be many things kind of, going into that. One thing is that the whole like tech scene or tech place has kind of shifted a lot over the last 3+ years, almost 4 years since the pandemic and everything. It was like this, limitless, growth gold mine place. And then all of a sudden we've seen like huge layoffs and these kind of things. And of course that creates kind of a different atmosphere. And then obviously we've had, just like huge advancements in AI that has created some big disruptions and things. But yeah, so there is kind of that fear that like, am I being replaced by, AI? And I think, I mean, I might eat my words, I guess, someday in the future. But I'm kind of in the Andrew NG school, more on the, positive side of AI, maybe. And I believe that, AI is going to replace tasks, but not jobs, So, but I think we're all probably surprised that AI is affecting white collar jobs this much. The prediction some years ago was that like AI is going to make huge advancements and replace all these blue collar jobs, and now we're seeing kind of the opposite thing happening. So, you know, white collar people are then starting to feel threatened. But yeah, so I think there's probably a few reasons.
It sounds like maybe the definition of what AI is probably the most confusing and the most fearful thing, because it could be anything, right?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it is. Maybe people are also just like getting tired of this term being tossed around with anything and not knowing really, are we talking about like, is your application really infused by AI, or is it just like, you know, some rule-based system based on like statistics, or people are maybe like, it's getting a little tired. There's a lot of memes going around where people like replace the word AI with, you know, insert whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might be it. I think that if we're gonna go into like what might be more helpful is to, at least this is the way I see it, that if you're thinking or if the thinking is that AI might replace tasks, then get to know, you know, AI tools, or what's possible to use, what's not possible to use, what problems might be solved by AI and which are maybe not really solvable by AI, and get like familiar with it. I think that, you know, fear mongering and fear in general is more present maybe around people who hasn't maybe had so much to do with quote unquote AI or machine learning engineering or data science or any of those things, because I think as soon as you start, you know, as a developer, for example, as a software engineer, start incorporating using Copilot in your work, you'll see that it might really help you get started on certain things. It might be kind of a, you know, productivity tool, like many other tools we've just kind of integrated into our work. But you'll also get to see its shortcomings, right? That you can't just like blindly rely on it. And I think that's, I mean, we'll see with ChatGPT, for example, but I think as soon as you start using ChatGPT a little bit, you'll see like what it might be used for, what it definitely is not, what it can't be used for, right? I saw like a funny post, I think it was yesterday, someone, oh, what was it? Someone said like, make me, name me an animal with the same amount of legs as they have tails or something like that. and ChatGPT was like, a snail, or yeah. It's like there's certain tasks that it just doesn't do well at all. And there's certain tasks that it's really, you know, helpful for. So getting familiarized with those tools and what they can do and what they can't do, I think can be helpful also to kind of get over that fear of being replaced, because you'll see that, okay, yeah, I can't, you know, it can't just like write me a novel from page 1 to, you know, the end, but maybe it can help me in certain areas. Yeah.
I've been thinking, or trying to put a term to it. Would you say that AI, quote unquote, can do anything, but it can't do everything?
Do anything but can't do everything. That's yeah, maybe that's a good way of putting it, although it really can't do anything either. There's a lot of things that it can't do, right? But yeah, that's definitely one way to see it. Like a famous prediction, maybe around 5 years ago now, was that like the work of radiologists would just be replaced by now, because image recognition has become so good that there's just no need for radiologists anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That was a prediction. I don't remember the name of who made that, but it was someone prominent, and that has turned out to be not the case at all. It's not even like there's less need for radiologists today. It's just that, yes, image recognition has become much better. It's become a tool, a productivity tool, or an aid for radiologists. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the work of a radiologist is not only around analyzing images, and you also can't just outsource analyzing images to AI completely. So that's one example where it was like, it's a white collar job. An important aspect is being able to analyze these images. Image recognition is one of the areas in AI which has had really impressive advancements, but still it didn't, and it hasn't, and it's probably, again, I might eat my words, but I just don't I just don't think that we're going to completely replace radiologists anytime soon. So yeah.
No, I think one famous example is probably the ATM, the cash machine. That when cash machines were brought in, they thought that bank workers were going to decrease. They actually went up, and then now bank workers still remain, and the cash machines are starting to drop off again. So yeah. I think embracing a holistic approach with AI, and I think this is something to have confidence in the kind of replacement debate.
Yeah.
How being sat in being part of, being within the tech world, how do you see how people are thinking about it being on the inside, working on it, versus the news and what people's expectations are?
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. Definitely to be on the both sides. On the one side, you see like countless just like articles every single day about AI and its dangers and blah blah blah, and then on the other side, you're trying to solve like very small problems as an engineer, and we're like, guys, it's not it's not that easy necessarily. But I think that we might see kind of a convergence in roles. Mm-hmm. So like 10 years ago, the role or the job data scientist didn't necessarily exist, and then obviously that's that was a role that emerged and that became super hot. And then I think you probably know more about that than I do, but then also after data scientists, we had MLEs, like machine learning engineers, maybe even more, because then you discover that, okay, but there's a bunch of data scientists who can do like linear regression, and they're basically statisticians or whatever, but they don't necessarily know how to do machine learning, right? Mm-hmm. I think yeah, and then data engineering has kind of like always been there, but maybe under different names, like maybe business intelligence analyst or developer or whatever, back-end developer, I don't know. But I think, if you're a software engineer or a software developer or developer or whatever you want to call yourself, and you get comfortable with data, with like data intensive applications, with just trying to understand how we need to use data to build applications, then you're in a good place to know where to apply different technologies appropriately. And I think that's a powerful place to be, because it's all about like knowing that, okay, this problem might be solved by linear regression, or this problem is, it's more like a classic ETL problem, and we need a, I don't know, analytics data warehouse or a data lake, whatever, to build it. Yeah. So getting back to kind of the basics, I think that software engineering classes, or the whole curriculum, might need to be updated a little bit. Or, I mean, I haven't looked at university curriculums so much lately, but it's like we still need to understand databases, but we probably also need to have more common basic understanding of linear algebra, for example. So like calculus is a regular part of a computer science degree. Maybe and relational algebra for databases. Maybe we need to include linear algebra as well, because that's what a lot of this is based on. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Do we not think that the base level will be risen, so all these fundamentals are not necessarily needed to be understood, or are these the foundations that it doesn't matter, you have to know them, otherwise you won't be able to get to the advanced levels?
Yeah, that's a good question, because like, what's your goal? Do you want to use AI tools, or do you want to build them? Do you want to build AI? I think if you want to, there's 1,000 ways to use AI tools, and I think so many industries are starting to learn how to use generative AI, and it's definitely disrupting a lot of industries, right? From like creative work and this and that. If you want to build AI tools, I think that some basic understanding of how it works, what is deep learning actually, is needed. And I think it's also like I think it's also good to understand, just to get a little real about like what are we talking about, and what kind of problems can these technologies solve,
How are we, maybe some examples and use cases for yourself, how are we empowering, what we're putting in place to empower humans to use these tools, rather than just thinking of replacing them?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like I've been in kind of the business of automation for 10 something years. I think a lot of people in the space has already, especially if you've like been working with business intelligence or anything like that. In where I sit in TomTom, for example, there's been a huge shift from creating maps manually, like literally drawing maps, right? To processing scalable sources and creating map features like roads or signs or whatever automatically, right? And then you need data pipelines. You need you need AI maybe certain places in order to do that. So for me, it's often about scale. It's not necessarily like we're replacing these people. It's like in the case of where I am, for example, if we want to map the whole entire world, and we want that map to be updated, as updated as possible, real time ideally. Then it's just not scalable to do all this work manually. It just can't be done, right? Even if we were able to do that and have like perfect coverage on every road, every little path manually, then by the time we had made that map, it wouldn't be updated anymore, right? So it's kind of like about, how do we shift the whole process of map making so that this can scale, and that's kind of like classic software engineering, right? Building an application that scales, or yeah, something like that. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but it's definitely about looking at a process, for example, that has been more or less rule-based or manual, and seeing like how might we be able to automate this and do it maybe like step by step or incrementally, and by the end of it, maybe your whole process is like looks completely different from where you started. But that's definitely something you can do. And then if you have domain knowledge, then you can use that, right, to kind of automate your own job. And then maybe you end up like eliminating your own job, but that's a lot of what being a developer is, right? How can we use computers to do this job, because we are just humans who can only work like 7.5 hours per day, right? So yeah.
And how has that changed recently? Has that been fast tracked, the pace of automation? And because we're never going to run out of problems. We solve one problem, we find another one.
I mean, there's I think our computing power is, obviously increasing with but I think, I mean, it's we've passed the 1-year anniversary of ChatGPT, and I think that was such a generative AI in general was such a it was such a big shift in ways of thinking or ways of building systems. So I mean, I haven't been that involved in like creating generative AI systems, but I've been a little bit involved in some projects. And what I see is that just the approach is just kind of like fundamentally different from your classic engineering project, let's say, and the ability to prototype really quickly has just like gone up a lot, where 1.5 years ago you would like maybe have wanted to do a POC of a data science problem, a machine learning problem, whatever, and you would maybe like this would maybe take like 6 months, 3 MLEs, data scientists, whatever, something like that. Whereas now you can literally do that in hours, just to see if you can actually build a project and start creating value so much faster. And then of course the real work starts with like building a productionized system or something like that, and debug and infrastructure and all that stuff that you still need. So But the way from an idea to a POC has gotten like much smaller. Which I think is exciting as well, both in big companies where I am and have been, but very much in small companies, right? Where if you have a great idea, you can try it out really, really quickly, and you don't need to be a lot of people, and you don't need a lot of resources. So that's exciting, I think.
Yeah, exactly. My next question: are we in a better place 1 year on? I mean, TomTom, an established company, would be a great insight. Are we in a better position now than we were a year ago since the release?
Better position how and for whom?
Well, for the engineers, the way they're able to test things, an idea so quickly, is it become flippant that you can just test things and not put so much time and energy into it? Is that detrimental, or is it net positive? How are you seeing it?
I'm seeing it as a positive, as a as a productivity tool, as something that can get you started really quickly. And I think a lot of it's happened a lot to make ChatGPT, for example, or some other GPT available on your data, or like safe to use on your data, so that companies, for example, can use kind of like a contained version and not be afraid to share data that they shouldn't, and stuff like that, because there has been unfortunately some cases where company secrets and stuff like that has been shared that shouldn't have been shared. Yeah. So I think that more tools are in place now to solve that, and I think that more companies are embracing these tools as well, because they see that that the productivity goes up, like for example for Copilot, it might be like worth the investment. You might get rid of some of the tedious stuff, but you still need good engineers, because you can't just blindly rely on it. So I mean, it's hard to say if we're in a better place, but since 1 year ago, I would say yes, because like right after the launch of ChatGPT, it was kind of it was a little bit of a revolution, and a lot of fear and a lot of chaos, maybe. So I'd say we're in a better place. Yeah.
So I'd agree. I'm conscious of time, so going to finish up with one final point to bring it home. What would you advise to anyone about skills and using it as a collaborative tool to develop their career? What would you advise there?
I would advise people to go deep, and if you haven't yet, try to familiarize yourself with some tools, with some AI tools, some automation tools, whether it's Copilot, ChatGPT, or some of these like tools that can automate processes, like make.io, I think is one. Around like using AI tools. And then for building and understanding, I think pick a topic maybe you're interested in, and try to understand some of these technologies a little bit more deeply. Maybe something that you think you can use in your field somehow. So whether that's computer vision or machine learning in general, or deep learning more specifically, or maybe it's maybe you're more like a data engineer and you want to understand knowledge graphs and where to use SQL and where to use NoSQL. So I would just dive deep. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we appreciate you joining us today, Julia. Really, really deep insights into a couple of areas there. If people want to keep up with you and some of the things that you're doing, how would they do so?
Follow me on LinkedIn. I'd say that's where I'm like the most active, and reach out. And I'm really happy to talk to anyone. So thank you so much for having me, Matt.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Any more conferences or speeches coming up soon?
I'm speaking at DevWorld in Amsterdam end of February, beginning of March. I know that for sure. And then and that's what I know for sure. So, yeah.
First of many, I'm sure. Well, thank you very much for your time, Julia. And to the listeners, of course, don't forget to like and share so we can reach as many people as possible. But it is bye from us. Thanks once again, Julia.
Thank you.
Ciao for now.
Bye.